Today, I have a secret that I'd like to share with everyone. I've realized that many guys are stuck in the same addiction and bad habit loop for years and years. Maybe getting into my 30s has opened up my eyes to how much time I wasted just going through the motions of fixing my life. Many of my clients are amazed when I mention that I've been off pornography for over 8 years. The closest that I've come to porn in the last 8 years, unfortunately, was at a party where it was played publicly and I promptly left. Interestingly, I registered nothing emotionally or mentally during the few moments when I debated what decision to take. I ultimately decided to leave rather than play Russian roulette with my formerly porn-addicted brain. When I was working part-time as a salesman while I was in college, one of my favorite books was a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. Now, Og Mandino himself is a very interesting character. An insurance salesman turned alcoholic, he lost his family to his addiction and wandered the streets homeless for 2 years. And then he started kind of spending time in public libraries while homeless as a means of avoiding bad weather. And that's when he stumbled upon this self-help section. So Og began compulsively reading self-help book after self-help book, which led him to quit drinking, straighten his life out, and eventually he became a very prolific and one of the best-selling self-help authors of his time. In a way, you can say that Og became addicted to self-help. So one of my favorite quotes from The Greatest Salesman in the World is, "In truth, the only difference between those who have failed and those who have succeeded lies in the difference of their habits. Good habits are the key to all success. Bad habits are the unlocked door to failure. Thus, the first law I will obey, which precedes all others, is, I will form good habits and become their slave." During one of the lowest points in my 20s, when I was basically a full-blown porn addict, when I had completely flatlined, like no motivation, no sex drive, no desire for anything, I remember the last few lines of that quote replaying in my head incessantly. I will form good habits and become their slave. I will form good habits and become their slave. At this point, I had run out of options. Like nothing was helping. So I wrote down some of the habits that I always tried to do, but usually never followed through with. Once I had listed them out, I dedicated 1 week during a 3-month period to repeating that habit daily without fail. The next week, I would pick up a second habit and add it to the first. The week after, I would pick up a third. Now, habits cannot be removed or eliminated. They can only be replaced by another habit. That's it. So, for those of you trying to break your bad habits, quit trying so hard. Find a habit that you can replace your bad one with whenever you feel the urge. Better still, read the book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, to understand this concept better. So all in all, I racked up 7 new habits over 7 weeks. Now, they didn't become habits till I repeated them for about 3 months, but the decision to practice each one daily for a week definitely helped. So I don't know about the whole it takes 21 days to build a habit. I had a really bad porn habit and it sure as hell didn't take 21 days to quit it. So I gave myself 90 days to build my personal habits. Over the years, these habits became things I could just never live without. I practice them daily. I'm obsessed with them. In fact, I believe that I'm addicted to them. And my entire lifestyle has been designed to accommodate them. People who get in the way of them cannot become a part of my life. Now, some people might find it eccentric or weird, but I just don't care. It's so important to me. So I'm going to share those addictions with you today, what I call my addictions. I believe that it is these addictions that have helped me stay away from pornography and masturbation for 8 years. I'm not kidding when I say 8 years. Sometimes I actually have to mentally check myself and do a quick scan back through time. But no, it's really been 8 years. So here we go. Addiction number 1 is early mornings. The latest I wake up on most mornings is about 4:30 a.m. I believe that the quiet hours of the morning are most conducive for working on myself. During my early recovery days, I dubbed this my recovery time. And it was a time when I read material on overcoming addictions, improving relationships, changing habits. These hours were also the hours where I anchored my day to stop it from spiraling out of control. Addiction number 2 is meditation. I practice a form of meditation called insight or mindfulness meditation. Meditation has numerous benefits, all which you can find on Google. But the most important aspects of meditation for me is that it has helped me see my issues for what they truly are. It's helped me eliminate some of my greatest fears, and it's helped me overcome the periodic bouts of depression that I frequently experience in my early 20s. So after 6 years of consistent meditation, I also find that I have less need for sleep. I'm literally fine on 5 hours of sleep, and I can concentrate for really long periods of time on one specific task. Addiction number 3 is affirmation. So this includes affirmation, visualization, and self-talk. Now, I don't mess around with these, okay? Your brain is literally like a computer. Every bit of data you put into it is processed and comes out as a finished product. So I keep a legal pad next to my bed, and every morning and night I write out all my goals, and I spend 10 to 30 minutes visualizing these goals. Many people are skeptical about affirmations, visualizations, and self-talk, and I understand. I was as well until I made a few tweaks to them. And there are numerous resources for affirmations and visualizations online. But whatever you choose to use, consider adding a few of these tweaks to them. So let's say you do affirmations. Make sure you say them out loud without any reservation. Don't be shy. Say them in the present tense. And if you do visualization, spend a few minutes getting into a meditative state first. Calm your mind. And also try to include your senses in your visualization. So in your mind, feel, touch, smell, and actually see the things that you want. But most importantly, don't visualize the end goal. Visualize the process and then the end goal. So experience yourself overcoming the struggle as well. Now, if you are into self-talk, and I'll talk about what it is, write your self-talk out before using it daily. Have solid reasons in each statement to back it up. And start using self-talk with things that you will not do before using it with things you aspire to do. So for instance, a good self-talk statement is, I no longer masturbate or watch pornography when I feel lonely. A great self-talk statement would be, I no longer masturbate or watch porn when I feel lonely because I realize that I'm more likely to watch pornography when I'm home alone, so I ensure that I'm never home alone. An excellent introduction to self-talk is the book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Dr. Shad Helmstetter. Addiction number 4 is gratitude and forgiveness. Now, back in the day when I was a virgin and I had a really bad porn habit and I was broke, I was a hater, alright? I hated on guys in my college who were hooking up with attractive college girls. I hated on older men who were pulling attractive college girls. I even hated on people whom I perceived to be wealthy. And I held a lot of grudges, and all that burden eventually made me a bitter, angry person. Most people who met me would never have guessed all the latent anger brewing inside me. When I felt disrespected, I would rage for hours in private. I would replay 100 different revenge scenarios. My 4th addiction changed all of that. Every morning, I list out everything I can think of that I'm grateful for. From being lucky enough to live in a country like this, to being healthy, to having amazing coaching clients and a wonderful business, to being free from pornography, and to not harming myself in my early 20s and during my teens. Nothing will put your current problems into perspective like gratitude will. Give it a try. Addiction number 5, fitness and diet. Right after I write my goals down, I throw on my gym clothes, pick up my gym bag, and head straight to the gym. Now my routine varies, but I hit heavy weights 3 to 4 times a week. I do cardio every day, usually sprints for about half an hour and calisthenics for another half hour. Once I get back home, I throw on a yoga DVD and I practice yoga for about 15 to 30 minutes. So what is the most challenging of all my routines? It's gotta be yoga. Now I've done some mentally hard stuff in my life. Like throughout my 20s, I sold Bibles door to door for 80 hours a week in some of the worst neighborhoods in this country. I have meditated 7 hours a day for multiple days. And I've had a lot of stuff happen to me that I consider tough. But yoga, particularly hot yoga, was hands down the toughest thing that I've ever done. And I highly recommend every man try out a class at least once. My exercise routine for me is absolutely non-negotiable. Now my diet is very simple. I rarely eat carbs and I avoid anything processed. Now men's testosterone levels are in the toilet because of processed food. Processed food is straight up cancer. Addiction number 6, self-discipline. Now self-discipline for me is magic. I was always an underachiever. I sucked in school, in high school, I sucked in college, I sucked with women. Let's just put it this way, I was more or less a loser. Now people casually throw around the word self-discipline like it's optional. During my sales career, I learned that in order to become my best self, self-discipline was not an option, it was a requirement. And most men who are unhappy and depressed are simply not self-disciplined. They are mostly lazy guys who had no one around to tell them that self-discipline would make all the difference in their lives. Some people say, well, JK, but I have Asperger's, or JK, I was diagnosed with ADHD, but JK, I had a serious anxiety disorder. You don't understand, but JK, I'm depressed. Well, guess what? As a child and a teenager, I was repeatedly told that I was slow. And if I had grown up in a Western country, I would no doubt have been diagnosed with something that would have held me back. The truth is, you may have something diagnosable holding you back, but what is equally true is that you may not have something holding you back. You may have just been convinced that it is. What I did personally was write down every excuse I had for not being disciplined in my life, and you can do that too. I wrote each one of them down and I found out which were just not true, which could be fixed, and exactly how that could be done. The only thing that has ever stopped me from living the life that I wanted has been my lack of self-discipline. And it's the same for you. That's the only thing holding you back.